I'm Chris.
I'm Christian. This is our Norfolk and Western 611 and Strasburg Railroad memories. So, I guess it's time to talk about the Norfolk and Western 611, seeing how I saw her in 2017 and 2019.
I only got to see her in 2019, but still.
She is called the Queen of Steam. Some people call her the most overrated steam locomotive, and there are some of us like myself who don't think she's the best, but I definitely do enjoy seeing her in person. Starting out this vlog, 611 to me was a locomotive that I remember seeing the image a lot of as a kid, but I didn't actually know what it was until really the past few years. It was in Shining Time Station, but unlike 844, it did not show up in the opening or closing. It showed up in a first season episode in a clip, and it was called The Rainbow Tiger, if I remember correctly. There were so many steam locomotives and trains shown in Shining Time Station, I didn't really remember its appearance in the show until I rewatched that said clip. So to me, 611 was always just that cool looking steam locomotive that I had no clue really what it was until a few years ago. I was looking at steam locomotives and that to see a few years ago, and that's when I came across the Norfolk and Western 611. The 611 is the only surviving J-class northern type steam locomotive built by the Norfolk and Western Railway. It is the only coal-fired streamlined steam locomotive in operation in North America. The other streamlined is the 4449, and that is an oil burner. 611 definitely is that cool looking locomotive. You could tell by its appearance that it was built in 1950. It has that 40s, 50s art style, in my opinion. So in 2017, when the 611 schedule was first announced, like a lot of other things, I brushed it off. I saw the day and I was like, then I started looking at it and I was looking at the distance from where I lived to Cavalier, and then I started factoring in a few other things, such as the C&O Heritage Center where the 614 was at, the Virginia Museum of Transportation. Slowly I sold myself to go see the 611, and I thought, wow, this would be an awesome trip to take. So originally I asked Chris to go, and he couldn't go, so I ended up going alone, which was my first real trip alone. And I left Thursday from my work, made my way, drove about halfway, drove the other half of the day the following day, and that is when I got to the C&O Heritage Center to see the 614. What a lot of people call Lima's finest, but we all know the 4449 is really Lima's finest. Then I made my way to Roanoke, where I got to see another Norfolk and Western steam locomotive that was Operation and Excursion career, the 1218. Spent a few hours there. And then I finally made my way to Lynchburg, got to the hotel, and my hotel was literally right by the yard where the 611 was being stored. Talking to a few crew members, I knew there was no way for me to get down there, but I saw there was an overpass, and that is when I got my first glimpses of 611. Now, in the Buffalo area, the 611 was an excursion star back in the 80s. She came here quite frequently with the Norfolk Southern Steam program, as did the Norfolk and Western 1218. When I first stood on the bridge, a friend of mine told me quite a few different stories and was very fond of 611. I remember making my way to the overpass that night, and I looked down, and there was a streamlined, bullet-shaped steam locomotive. And I remember looking at it going, there's the locomotive all of my railfan friends from the 80s spoke about. There is the legend, the icon, the myth, the famous 611. And just looking at it, the thing was beautiful. And standing from the overpass, me and I would say about 10 other railfans kind of gathered there. We BS'd a little bit, found out those who were riding, found out those who were chasing. We even met a few people who were volunteering who gave me tip ideas for the chase. I went back to my hotel room that night and I just couldn't wait to chase it. This was our first real chase for our channel. Before that, the Viscount 6 was really about as real as a chase as what we would have gotten. So the 611 was the first chase video, and it was pretty much one of the first videos I had that I was really proud of. I remember that morning, I got up at about 5:30, met probably about 20 other rail fans at the hotel, maybe 2 other people were chasing, the rest were riding. I just remember walking down that next day, getting the shot of the 611 entering the yard, And then I pretty much chased it from, and then as the 611 departed that day, I pretty much chased the 611 from Lynchburg to Petersburg, Virginia in return. During the morning chase, I had set 4 locations I wanted to make. Not sure how many other locations I would make, and a few people told me to get to Petersburg early to catch them entering the station, which I did do. And some of my favorite shots that day were rounding the curve at Concord, going by the old station in Pamplin, the Arden Crew. It was just a great chase in the morning, so I didn't know how I was going to top it up in the afternoon. In the afternoon, knowing how easy of a chase it was, I was a lot more loose with the chase. I decided to fit in as many locations as I could, and it was actually easily possible. They stopped for some unknown reason, but it was just a great day. It was kind of cold that day, but by the afternoon the sun came out. One of the shots I do want to talk about, one of my favorite shots from the chase was around sunset time, shooting from Appomattox in the actual Appomattox depot, the 611 rounding a curve coming into the town. I did not realize it at the time, but that was probably one of the last shots I got of the 611 with an old Norfolk and Western signal there. Because of PTC and everything, that signal has probably been cut down. Then to close off the day, to make the chase even more memorable, I got still one of my favorite shots, the 611 going across the trestle entering Lynchburg. Still one of my favorite shots, and believe it or not, it was shot without a tripod. After that, I went home, and I was satisfied with my 611 chase, but I had other plans I wanted to see in 2018. So 611 pretty much ran out 2017, ended in early spring. 2017 was a kick-ass year for us. 2018 came. I wanted to see the famous J again when Amtrak decided to do their whole thing where they pretty much did away with special charters. So with that being said, 611 did not really operate at all that year except for a few events at the North Carolina Transportation Museum and a ferry move I found out about last minute. A lot of us rail fans were disappointed because that hurt a lot of steam locomotives, 4449, 3751, 261 in a way because they were able to stretch their legs on the main line going up to Duluth and back. So 2018 left very dismal chances for 611's future. No one really knew what the future was going to be until March, when the 611 pretty much came in and said, hey, I'm changing your guys' year. And said that to pretty much a lot of rail fans. If Big Boy wasn't the biggest event in the West, 611 became the biggest event in the East, surprising everybody. And I mean everybody. 611's crew came out of nowhere with excursions planned. Then the Strasburg Railroad shared a picture of the 611's firebox doors, saying the event would be announced Friday. Almost seemed ridiculous. It was preposterous. A locomotive as big as 611 coming to the Strasburg Railroad. Locomotive that was designed to run at 80 miles an hour was going to be running at the max 20 at Strasburg Railroad. And as crazy as it seemed, I loved every minute of the event. So that Friday when tickets went on sale at 6 a.m. in the morning, I bought tickets for every event I desired to go to, riding behind the 611, doing the charter, which canceled me going to see 1225's return to Cadillac in 4 years. I'm still kind of a little upset I missed that excursion. I still have refused to watch any video from that excursion. Not because of, I think it sucks, but because of the fact I had been plotting the 1225's chase to Cadillac for 5 years, and 611 came and pretty much said, no, you can't go to that. It didn't actually tell me that, but I realized it was a once-in-a-lifetime event, and I realized 1225 will be going to Cadillac. And another time in the future, 611 returning to Strasburg is going to be a little bit. So I bought tickets to the photo special. I even had Throttle time tickets. So Chris instantly called me that Friday after everything pretty much sold out.
Yeah, I called. I wanted in on this.
So
I've never seen it before.
So as the 611 schedule changed, as did we cast off for Strasburg the Thursday night before everything happened, and we were there on day one of the Reunion of Steam event.
I gotta say, day one started off completely socked in with fog as Strasburg.
As we were in an Amish paradise. I did quote Weird Al Yankovic's song quite a bit.
He did. Anyway, I had never seen this thing before. There was a fair bit of hype in my mind. And just seeing, and as they were moving it around, shunting it around the yard, just seeing this thing come out of the fog was truly a sight to behold. And I don't know, I thought it better in the fog than it did in the actual sunlight, which, by the way, day one that day was absolutely phenomenal weather.
First 2 days I went to the Reunion of Steam, the weather was great, the sun was great. I mean, it was a little cold on the first day of the photo charter at 6 a.m., but...
It's 6 a.m., of course it's going to be cold.
Day one of seeing the 611 again for the first time in 2 years, like Chris was saying, seeing it move around the fog was pretty cool. Seeing it move up to the station, couple on, I couldn't believe that this, as large as a locomotive as 611 was, it would actually be pulling the train down the grade to the junction and then pull the train back up. There wasn't too many people there on Friday, which was one of the main reasons why we changed going from Saturday to Friday.
It worked to our advantage.
And it was just a fun time shooting the locomotive around Strasburg. We got all the crossing shots because I knew flat out the next week with the Laro Productions charter that I would get all those neat shots of the bridge at the junction, all those fun shots.
I mostly stayed behind in the station, but I think some of the shots I got at the station were absolutely phenomenal.
And one thing with 611, when I first saw her, maybe because I didn't see her working up too many grades, I didn't think she was that loud of a locomotive. At Strasburg, on day one and during the photo charter, she was putting on quite a show, and they were really having a lot of fun with the rail fans. Riding on day one, though, I will admit, it was fun to watch everyone crowd for a spot on the back of the Hello Dolly coach.
Yeah, that was a little... I unfortunately didn't get a chance to because I was saving our seats.
I was not going to miss riding right next to the 611 on the Hello Dolly car.
I figured I'd just let him have that one.
And it was fun. Got some good wheel slip, too.
Yeah, I think I actually caught that. Did I catch that on the video?
I don't remember.
Neither do I.
But yeah, going down the grade to Espenshade and coming back up, it was just, it was a great way to kick off the Reunion of Steam event. One of the coolest things about the Reunion of Steam event was that the 475 was restored to its 1950s appearance with its centered headlight and given the bigger N&W hooter. I really like this look. Now, number one, I don't care what look 475 is. I do like the high headlight look. I like the original Strasburg look, Thomas and the Magic Railroad look. But the centered headlight look is my favorite look of the 475.
Me personally, I haven't seen it without the centered headlight look, and I really like the center headlight. But that's just me.
And during the charter as well, 475 really showed her stuff. And a lot of people probably kind of did forget that the 475 was there, but I didn't. As a fan, as someone who grew up, Shining Time Station, Thomas and the Magic Railroad, I absolutely love seeing the 475, and even with 4 passenger coaches, she made quite a bit of noise. Second weekend, I went back down alone for the photo charter. I ran into many people that day. Reading Rail fan, Toledo Rails, Coaster fan 2105, Blue Comet Productions, Ethan Trains Productions, Train Chamber, Dr. Funk 411. Just everyone you could probably think of in Pennsylvania. No, I'm missing people. But yeah, the charter day one, we had perfect light. And to me, on day one, the morning session was the best. We shot the long curve, the bridge. 90 even put on one hell of a show that day every time it passed us. But the afternoon session, as fun as what it was, there was a lot of traffic on the line. The trains were running till 7 p.m. that night. The Cherry Crest Adventure Farm was open, so we really didn't get a lot of locations with the good sunlight. To quote Toledo Rails, we had one of the craziest mashups ever. 611 with the freight, 475 with the passenger cars, and the 90 all at Groff's Grove at one point. On day one, we got the most amount of smoke I've ever seen a steam locomotive put out by 611. Day two of the charter, because of the light, I thought the morning session was kind of It was pretty much the same as the day beforehand, just a few different locations. But because of the overcast skies you got, you could work around a lot better, get different angled shots that you couldn't get with the sun. With the colder weather, you got a better display of steam, but all 3 engines put on a great show. For the afternoon session, because trains only ran till 3, Cherry Crest Adventure Farm was closed, we really were able to shoot at more of those nooks and crannies on the Strasburg line, and it was a great way. And how did we end the photo charter? With Foam Fest 2019. Now, arguably, a few people call Foam Fest 2019 the doubleheader between 4014 and the 844 on its way to Ogden, Utah. And you are correct. That was by far the biggest rail fanning event of the century. Unless somehow you're able to resurrect a New York Central Hudson and a New York Central Niagara and a Pennsylvania T1 and a Pennsylvania Q3 and have them quadruple head somewhere, you will not top the big boy in 844 double heading to Ogden, Utah. Well, maybe if you put 44-49 into the consist.
Hashtag bring back the Hudson.
Yeah, you know, someone probably is going to challenge me to create a bigger Foam Fest. But anyhow, you get the point.
Challenge accepted.
But anyhow, you get the point. But to us, the East Coast rail fans who were not able to make it out to Ogden, Utah, that didn't want to deal with the 7-mile-long traffic jam with the chase, the Foam Fest for us was the 611 and the 475 double heading, which at the May, if I could mention, on the second day, 475 was renumbered to 382, the Virginia Creeper, which Laro does for his charters quite a bit. So even though it was just a number change and they changed out the cow catcher and put on the white walls, 475 looked great as 382, her long departed sister. Strasburg didn't end with the Reunion of Steam event for me. I had Throttle time, which I was also invited to the triple-headed private charter at the Strasburg Railroad. And that to me was hands down probably my second favorite charter I've ever been to. Not because I overdid 611 at Strasburg. The triple-header charter was absolutely awesome. 475 is my favorite locomotive at Strasburg. Then to have to say my second favorite is 90, then down to 89. Seeing all three engines behind a photo freight was amazing. And then spending individual time with each engine. 475, 90, and then 89. Even though the weather was really bad that day in the rain really made for some awesome dramatic shots, which you don't get with that typical sunny days. And a big thank you to the operator of that event for inviting me to it. I really do appreciate it. I loved the triple header charter, and I hope something like that does happen at Strasburg again. So, that being said, that was pretty much it for Strasburg and 611 this year. I don't think we're going to see 611 again for a while, but then again, who knows, maybe 611 might even get to stretch her legs somewhere other than Strasburg.
One can hope.
But there are other locomotives I do want to see more of this year. Because pretty much my whole September and October was, I probably should have claimed that I lived in Pennsylvania for a month.
You kind of did, let's be honest.
And pretty much that's it for our 611 and Strasburg memories.
Anyway, I'm Chris.
I'm Christian.